I want 2025 to be the year I finally focus on being stylish and not just being trendy. Now, I realize we're already over a quarter of the way into 2025, so it's a little bit late for like New Year's resolutions and things like that. But this whole concept of being genuinely stylish as opposed to just being trendy is something that I've been thinking a lot about over the last few weeks. I kind of just wanted to discuss, I guess, what this means to me, and my journey of how I plan on going about this. So, the way I've dressed, or I guess the way I present myself to the world, has always been something that really mattered to me. But in terms of having an actual interest or caring about fashion, I would say that only really started about maybe 12 to 18 months ago. And with that, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, I found myself following a lot of different trends. And when I say trends, I don't necessarily mean like, Y2K or Gorpcore or anything along those lines. I more so mean that I would see influencers and people online wearing very specific items of clothing that were trending, and then thinking that unless I'm wearing those exact items, or unless I'm wearing something that matches that or is a duplicate of that, I'm just not going to look fashionable. And so the examples that come to mind are things like, chunky loafers, really oversized baggy jeans, or even something like cropping all of my t-shirts and shirts. And that's not to say that I've all of a sudden decided I don't like any of these things. Like, I'm literally wearing a t-shirt that I cropped myself right now. It's more so that as I take a step back and really think about it, I can see how in a few years' time people are going to be looking at our outfits today and really wondering how we ever thought this looked good. So what I'm getting at in terms of all of this is, I think anybody can be trendy. I think you can go out and buy whatever is the it or in thing at the moment, and you can be on trend. But with that, or I guess what comes with that, is at some point your outfits are going to become stale if you continue dressing that way. There's a shelf life to it, after which it's no longer going to be fashionable. And then, sort of on the other side of the coin, you have people who are genuinely stylish. And to me, what this means is people who have a deeper understanding of fashion that allows them to actually dress well without having to rely on, one very specific trendy or multiple specific trendy items. And look, obviously there's levels to this. I'm not saying that everybody who is stylish is like a scholar of fashion or anything like that. But what I mean when I say that they have an understanding of fashion is, to some extent, these people have an understanding of proportions and silhouettes and how to play with those things and what works for them. They have an understanding of layering. They know what types of garments and everything works for different situations and different scenarios. And they can then work with all of that, or manipulate all of that, to curate outfits that always look good. And it doesn't matter if they're, dressing up for like a really fancy event, or they're just running to go do errands or whatever. They're always going to look good. And through this understanding, to varying degrees, they're always going to be able to stay with the current trends. And so all of a sudden now you don't have a outfit, or you don't have a style that's going to become stale in a few years time, but you're able to sort of fit into any era and look good with maybe a few tweaks. And so that's kind of what I want to focus on for the remainder of the year, and I guess beyond that obviously as well, is how to break away from just hopping from one trend to the next and whatever comes in season, etc. And I've sort of put together, I guess, three main ways that I think I could go about this, with the first one being no more fast fashion. Now, I want to make it very clear right off the bat, when I say no more fast fashion, I don't mean like a full boycott from fast fashion. When it comes to things like my basics, or, clothes that I'll only ever wear to run errands or go to the gym, I'm going to still opt for like the fast fashion alternative, as opposed to going and buying like a luxury item, or buying something from like an independent brand that costs 5 times the price, because that just doesn't make sense to me at the moment. What I mean when I actually say no more fast fashion is not using these brands as an outlet that I can just rush to every time I want a duplicate, or like a cheaper, heavily inspired alternative to a new item that I've just seen trending or an influencer wearing online, which I don't actually really need. And that kind of leads me on to my second point, which is taking the time to plan my wardrobe. So again, instead of rushing to buy, an item that's suddenly started to trend or anything like that, I want to actually spend a lot more time looking at the clothes I currently wear or the outfits that I currently wear and actually enjoy wearing and think that I look good in, because I think that from there I can develop an understanding of what I need to add to my wardrobe to actually complement that and enhance that. And then once I've figured that out, or once I have that short list of, items that I think I can add to my wardrobe, I can then spend the time finding the exact pieces that fit every specification I want and are actually high quality and gonna last me a long time. So obviously with the combination of both of those things about, looking at higher quality pieces and opting out of fast fashion, the individual garments or the individual items of clothing that I buy, I think on average are going to cost more. But I guess the ultimate goal, or what should naturally come about with this, is that I'm consuming less overall. So even though I'm spending more on individual items, they're lasting me a lot longer in terms of the quality of them, in terms of being in style. And it's actually things that I want to wear and enjoy wearing. So I'm getting use out of them as well. And it's actually worthwhile spending that little bit of extra money. And then that leads me on to my final point, which is in terms of when it comes to finding these high quality pieces and determining what's going to be, for lack of a better term, timeless. I want to really spend a lot more time learning about fashion on a deeper level. I've spent a lot of my free time over the last few weeks actually trying to consume content, whether it be through books or YouTube videos or other types of media, to learn about fashion, learn about the history of certain trends and how they came about, learn about the different fashion houses, learn about different designers and sort of who they are and what they've brought to the table, etc. And on one hand, I find it very, very interesting, yes. But then on the other hand, I found that even after just a few weeks of this, it sort of changed my perspective, or it's starting to change my perspective rather. When I'm now thinking about my outfits, I'm putting a lot more thought into them and thinking about what I can do to make them interesting while still looking good, and what I can add and sort of different elements that I can incorporate into these outfits, as opposed to just, seeing what a particular influencer or whoever is wearing online, and then either trying to copy that outfit exactly or going out and trying to buy the items of clothes that'll allow me to copy that outfit. And that sort of connects back to the point I was making earlier, where I think people who are truly stylish have that deeper understanding of fashion that people who are just trendy don't. And so those are the three ways that I think that I can focus on breaking away from this fixation of certain trends. And I don't mean any of this to say that, I regret anything over the last year and a half. I think trying to get involved in trends was very important for me to learn what I like and dislike and learn what I think actually looks good on me. And nor do I say any of this to, try and sound like someone who's just elevated to the next level and I'm now beyond trends or I can set trends myself or anything like that. I just want to take sort of the next step to be able to no longer just, hop from one trend to the next and actually develop my personal style that looks good but is also unique to me. And so that's kind of all I really wanted to say. If you stuck around and you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more stuff of me kind of just yapping like this or anything else, do like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. I do also have a Instagram, which is on the screen now, and it's linked below in the description as well. I like to post a lot of fit checks on there and kind of document my journey through fashion. So I'd really appreciate if you, gave me a follow or went to check that out as well. But yeah, that's sort of it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.